Boom. And we are live for the Tuesday Phoenix RIA. It is 2 o'clock, or actually 2:02 on Tuesday afternoon. And today I'm here with Luke, and we are talking about marketing lists. But I'm going to rewind a little bit and just talk a little bit about the market, right? Just
Perfect.
off. So a couple things came out this week. Was the ASU market data came out this week, which I found pretty interesting. It said that the median home price, even though it decreased like $40,000, it also was still, we were still $25,000 positive on the current market. So, it's retracted, but it hasn't all the way retracted.
Right.
And so that was kind of interesting. Obviously, the FOMO kind of that kind of April 1st through June 30th kind of hit, and our inventory is still kind of really leveled out. It's still stayed around that 18,000 and 19,000 mark.
Nice.
And some of the data points that came out there is, yes, listings are kind of staying the same. We're right, at that 19,000 mark. And there's not a huge amount of buyers, but there's also not a huge amount of people listing their house, which is kind of keeping us even, right? So yes, there's not as many buyers, but there's also a lot of people going, hey, I like my 3.25 mortgage and I'm just going to stay right here. So I'm not going to sell my house. So
tough to blame them.
That mass inventory that we had kind of in 2007, 2008, we don't have that coming on the market. So inventory is still kind of low. So it was kind of interesting. And then another stat that I noticed from the ASU data that was out is our sales are similar to the fall of 2018, which, fall of 2018, nobody was going like, oh, crap, the sky's falling, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh, it's fall. It's slow.
You think people are saying that right now, Chris?
So
that sky's already fallen.
Yeah. But, I just kind of, and the median home price is still right now $25,000 over what it was last year. Now, still trending down. So, maybe around December will be equal to a year, but we're still up. We're not, it hasn't all gone away. So that's kind of another interesting point. But anyway, I just like to share some stats about the real estate market and what's kind of going on there.
What we're kind of thinking, what Jake and I have talked about is I think that, in order to move a house right now confidently in a decent time frame is I think you got to be pretty far underneath what a lot of these other listings are at. I mean, you got to really price that aggressively, right? In my opinion, to be able to move something right now.
Yeah, you got to get that investor to, like, he's sitting on the fence going, watching. Oh, oh, maybe that's interesting. Maybe I'll get off the fence for that one, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. They might have a price point where they say, okay, if I can find something in South Scottsdale with a pool for $550 fully renovated, that's at least 1,500 square feet with a 2-car garage, I will pull the trigger. Because right now everyone else is still listing them at $650, $700 still, but
and they used to sell for $8.
I know, exactly. Or they might be thinking like, okay, if I can get one for $500 or $550, you know what? If I see one that I like, I will pull the trigger and I'll just buy it cash.
Yeah,
I'm going to cash out the old 401 and I'll throw that into a South Scottsdale Airbnb right now because there's only 10,000 of them.
Yeah, exactly. So on to our marketing list. So when I market to sellers, I'm a volume guy. I need as many houses as I can buy, right? So I kind of don't really market to different lists. I do dial down my list. Like I might say, I want to make sure that they got 30% equity, stuff like that. But I might really kind of, focus on a really big area. But if you're just starting out, you're not going to have the budget that I have to market to. So, we just thought we would talk about some of the lists out there. And just if you haven't figured out, if you're in the real estate space, you're not really in real estate. you're in marketing, right? That's
Yep.
really what you're doing. So,
Absolutely.
and we just happen to have the best marketer out there with us today, Luke. So,
Get out of here.
but some of the lists that you could definitely hit. One of my kind of favorite ones, because I'm a foreclosure guy, is the foreclosure list. Now, I hate to tell you, the foreclosure list only has like 1,096 houses on it. So, I mean, if you're going to go out and cold call, you're going to run through 1,096 houses really fast.
Oh, absolutely.
So that may not work, but some other lists out there that you might hit: absentee owner, which is, hey, they're absentee. They don't live at the house. It's a rental property. So some other there's a divorce list. There's an old people list. You get that baby boomer list, right? Have you ever used the old person list?
We do a lot of non-owner occupied, which is exactly what you just said as well. Non-owner occupied, high equity. I mean, high equity is obviously, it's one of the best ones to hit, because obviously, like you were saying earlier, you're not going to have someone who wants to sell their house if they're going to just break even on it, right? If you're just going to break even on a house, or you're going to sell and you're going to lose money, no one's going to sell their house. You might as well just sit in it. And again, like you said, you're going to have a lower interest rate. It doesn't do you any good to sell it. So if you can find those properties, and again, the majority of the deals that we've done in the past, it's always people who have that equity, because they're like, you know what, maybe I owe, maybe I bought this house in 2012, right, when they bought the house for 160 grand and now it's worth 350. And so they've thrown a tenant in there, and it's just been being rented out for the last 10 years. And so they've got 200 grand that they're just sitting on, where they might say, you know what, rather than making $400, $500 a month on this long-term rental, it's been really safe and it's been really easy, but maybe I want to take that 200 grand and do a 1031 and throw this into, 2 or 3 properties, or a multifamily property or something like that. So we're the same way. Where the high equity has always been the number one staple that we've always gone after, because those are going to be the most likely to sell. There's just no doubt about it.
And then, so as we're talking about lists, you can ratchet your list down, and then you can also do what's called stackability. So you might get the absentee owner, so that might be a really big list in Phoenix. A lot of people own rentals, but then you might use a subcategory like high equity. So that's going to take it down a little bit more. And, if you got a really specific dollar amount that you want to use, or you're not in the giant Phoenix market and you're doing a virtual wholesale out here, you can use some other things to do what they call stacking a list. And that's when you stack a list, it's where it's on multiple different lists. It might be on the divorce list and the absentee owner. So it's a rental property by a divorced couple. So,
jackpot.
winner, ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, exactly. So another couple ones that we hit. One of them that I don't know if a lot of people hit, but this is kind of like a almost like more of like pocket list that we do. We'll just pick like zip codes that we like, right? Because we do a majority of our stuff up in Prescott. So we just have a really good idea up in Prescott. We know all the zip codes where it's like, okay, this zip code right here tends to bring in more money. You can tend to, sell a property for more money because you have more people interested in the zips. It's the same thing I was talking to Jack the other day, but obviously the zip code that you guys love is 85032.
85032.
Right. So it's like, so it's like those zip codes, you can just, if you want, you can just pull lists in that zip code, and so not to say a lot of other people are not doing that, but again, you guys have your reasons for why you do it. It might be that it's a Paradise Valley school district, right? So that people are going to pay more for these properties, just for the simple fact that if they've got kids, their kids are going to be able to go to Paradise Valley schools.
Yeah.
So things like that, we do it in Prescott where we know, okay, these make for great Airbnbs. When we were doing a lot of just buy and holds, we hit a certain area, and I think we ended up picking up 3 of our Airbnbs are all in the same zip code, and it's because we hit that specific list. That we know that people want Airbnb. We know that people want Airbnbs, and they want to stay in Airbnbs there because it's close to town, stuff like that. So,
well, obviously, if you know your buyer's criteria, you kind of reverse engineer into your list, right?
100%.
Yeah, if you got and and some of us were selling to funds, and I'm not just the only guy that was selling to funds, but it was buying this zip code, and if you had this school, the school ranking had to be above this, and so there was different criteria, and people would dial it down even more, right? So
exactly, yeah, you just know you're set. So
yeah, but as you market, I mean, you might choose, and there's lots of different methods. Luke's the master of cold calling, but if we talked about that foreclosure list, it's really small, right? It's only called 11. I'm gonna round it up. It's 1,100, right? That might be your driving for dollars list, right? Where you're sitting at the courthouse and you see the 20 or 30 new houses that come on the foreclosure. Guess what? A lot of people are going to hit that list. So that might be the driving for dollars list. I know a bunch of guys in this town that, specifically work the foreclosure list, but you don't want to wait till the title company sends it to you. That's like 2 or 3 days old. Like, you want to get there quick. So,
we know some guys in this industry that are door knocking the second that they get that list.
Yeah, so they're
send their guys out.
Yeah, the foreclosure list, you door knock it, because if you cold call it, you're probably already late to the game. So especially on the guys that want to, and then obviously if you don't door knock it the first time, you get them on the schedule and you door knock them again and again and again, and you get a leave behind. The problem with the leave behind is the guy that comes in behind you throws your leave behind in the trash can and leaves his, and then that guy comes and throws his away.
Exactly. And so, Chris, you were talking about stacking lists. Another thing that I remember that we used to do is we'd also say, okay, that we're only going to look at houses that have not been purchased in the last 3 years, right? Because maybe they don't have enough equity if it was purchased in the last 3 years. So it'd be, they had to have bought it, 4 years or older. You can also stack that list to say houses that were, whatever, 1940 and newer or whatever. So, I mean, you can adjust that exactly how you want it.
Yeah. So it's just, kind of dialing it down. And like I said, if you're doing virtual wholesaling, which, Luke's does some virtual wholesaling, you might, like if you're in, call it Ohio, you might not want the 1912 house or the 19, or how about the 1889 house or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. You get those houses. We ran into that a ton in Louisville. So when we were doing virtual wholesaling there, the houses, like you're saying, they'd be built in like 1905. And you're like, damn, like I can't pass on this. I could pick it up for like 12 grand. And then it's like, oh, that's because it needs a 100K rehab and it's worth 105 fully renovated.
Yeah,
so we ran into that quite often.
Yeah, that doesn't necessarily work. And then obviously, it all depends on your model. Let's just say your model is just subject to. You want to go buy 20 subject twos in the next, call it 2 years. You're going to buy 10 a year, and you're going to try to wrap that 3.2 or 3.5 or even under 3% interest rate.
Yep.
You're probably not. You want to do actually the reverse. You want to go get people in distress that have probably purchased in the last 2 years, right? Because they don't have the equity for Luke that likes to buy at 40 cents on the dollar. He's not calling that list. Right?
It's not 35, Chris. It's at 35 now.
So, if you want to stay away from all Luke's cold callers, you go like, oh, let's buy maybe, guys that have bought in the last 2 years, maybe they bought FHA, they only put like 3.5% down. They got that super cheap, 3% money between, call it 2020 and, March of 2022.
Yep.
So they could definitely, that might be, but that you might not going to get a lot of equity, but you're going to get it that. Number one, you're going to get a cheap mortgage, and you can wrap it, right? So
right. No, for sure. And I mean, like you said, there's all kinds of different options. I mean, we had a lot of, we noticed that in Louisville, and I think it's a lot of those kind of Midwest towns where you have a lot of people that are actually just buy and hold investors, because you can get a solid rental property for 120 grand, and you can throw a tenant in there where the rental rates are, it still made a lot of sense, where say you're you can still rent that place out for $1,200-$1,300. And if you're buying it for 100, 120, and you're putting 10, 20 grand down, your mortgage payment might only be $700. And, you can profit, $500 a month. You start cash flowing $500 a month off a quick $120,000 home. You might not get a lot of appreciation, which is, that's the difference in the markets, is that I know a lot of people don't like markets like that because you don't get that appreciation. But then at the same time, you also don't drop in value a lot when you have, when the market does start going down. Where
Yeah, you
like
don't have the market swings like we have in Phoenix, right?
I was going to say, here in Phoenix, where you see a 20% drop in values in a matter of 4 months, it's a big difference. But at the same time, when that market comes back, you're also going to see that, that value go up that much faster as well. So I know a lot of people think it doesn't make as much sense to do long-term buy and holds here in Arizona. But I mean, again, personally, I'm not the type of person where I don't want to have a bunch of homes in Ohio, where I don't know anything about it. It's hard to manage. I mean, that's why we tend to stick with our stuff in Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, values fluctuate a lot more in Arizona than they do in kind of the Midwest states. But like you said, you get your ups with your downs. But obviously, 2007 was a crisis because the lending practices were terrible, and then our inventory went to 62,000. Well, obviously,
right.
You add 62,000 and then you tighten the screws on lending and you blend those two, then that's a problem, right?
Right.
So, but now we're in just kind of this pause market. What's funny is about people feed off just bad news, right? So
absolutely.
We all saw, if you didn't see it, you probably saw it, but it's like, interest rates hit 7%, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, interest rates are based on the 10-year. Now, they're not based on the Fed rate. The Fed rate got hiked up 0.75 of a point, right? Well, the 10-year went to 4. But does anybody report that it's back at 3.6? It's dropped. It's dropped 40 basis points in the last 2 days, and that's because the British government started buying our 10-year, which that creates so a buyer, so it brings it down. So that's but no one's talking about that, right? It's not like, we went to 7, but now we're probably back at 6.5, and
right.
And that's not all over the news.
No, for sure. I think that another thing it does, I think that, I think you can look at it one of two ways. Obviously, everyone's been holding right now because the interest rates are higher. So they're seeing those continuing to climb. And so, they're obviously standing on the sidelines where, I mean, I think that there's a chance that they might jump back in soon because if they truly do, if you got those people that 100%, they still want to buy, right? But if they know the interest rates are going to continue to climb, it's almost one of those things where you might as well get in now before it continues climbing. I mean, who knows? And so I think that's why there was a hike right around. There's a hike in properties actually being bought again. I think what did you guys have? Was it in August or September?
No.
What did you guys see yours?
It's kind of leveled off, but I mean, people are still buying. I actually pulled the numbers. There's 5,900 homes have gone under contract in the last 30 days. Now,
okay,
we're used to 10,000, but
it's still 6,000. Yeah,
it's still 6,000. Like, okay, we're down 40%, but we're not zero.
Well, and 6,000 if there's 18,000 actives right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you got 6,000 and you got another 18. That's still 25% of properties going under contract.
Yeah, no, it's actually if you have 18,000 and 6,000, it's 33%.
33 if you did, yeah. I'm thinking because if there's 6 sold and you still got 18 left, but I mean, it's you're somewhere in that ballpark where that's still a pretty decent percentage there.
Yeah, so it's not like the market stopped; it's just slow.
Slow down from 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, we're still moving at like 55 or 60.
Yeah, right. No, for sure.
It's just all perception of like how you look at things, right? So is the glass half full or is it half empty, right?
Yep. I think there's a lot of half empty people out there.
Well, that's just a mindset, right?
100%.
So if you look at the market like, it's just fall, it's October, we've had 6,000 houses go under contract in the last 30 days in September, and they're like, wait. And then you go back and look at 2018, like I said at the beginning of this, it's like, around the same number of houses went under contract. You're like, maybe it's not so bad.
Yep, exactly. I think it's all perception, like you said. I think it all comes from the fact that where we were at beginning of this year and end of last year, just because it was so hectic and it was so crazy and everything was selling so fast and immediate, and it was obviously it was unsustainable.
Yeah, oh yeah,
But
that was never going to last forever.
never give me a break. Yeah, it would be bad if that lasted. And so, I mean, the fact that we're back down to just, like you said, 1 out of 3 houses or 1 out of 4 houses selling in 30 days. That's not too bad.
Yeah, no, it's, I think the big decision time is, call it January, because, see where the interest rates are in January. But, January, this market notoriously starts to go. It starts to go. People are like, oh, well, I need to move. I have a new job. The kids are starting a new school next year, whatever the reason, they just, they're getting a divorce, whatever. Something's always changing in their lives and they need to move. And if you're the 80,000 people that keep coming to Phoenix every year, and that's just a number I use. And, it was 100 one year, it was, 71 year, but like, it's kind of like 80,000 people come here every year, and they're not going to, when they come here in, January, February, March, and they start looking, some of those guys are all cash, they're not going to be like, oh, interest rate's 6.5.
No, exactly. No, majority of those guys sold their house in California and they've got that cash in their pocket.
Yeah.
So no doubt about it.
Anyway, so that's kind of our little take on marketing lists, our state of the market right now. So, if you're interested in real estate, you should watch our little YouTube channel or stay on the Phoenix REIA, because if you're interested or you're new or you're getting involved, the best time to learn is right now, because there's going to be blood in the water, or blood on the street is probably the kind of the frame. And, blood in the water just brings the sharks around, right? So
absolutely.
So, it's gonna change. It's on its way down, and just the same thing with, there's going to be opportunity in all this stuff. What Bitcoin's off, 60%. So people are going to obviously probably get back in that. The Nasdaq's off, a huge number. I don't know. I'm not a stock guy, but it's way off too. People are going to get back in that. The Dow has sustained a little bit better than all the rest of them, but it's just people are going to get back into this market. They're just
100%.
Wait and see.
100%. Waiting to see what happened, and it dropped, and they saw it drop, and now we'll just kind of see how this goes. But like you said, they'll be back, no doubt about it.
But if you want to keep learning about real estate, keep watching us on the Phoenix REIA or the Viking Boys YouTube channel or the Just for Flips.
There it is.
my yellow sign isn't in school. It's right there.
Awesome.
But this is the time where if you take advantage and you watch some YouTube stuff, or you watch our stuff and you learn how to market and who to market to and all that stuff, when it does hit the bottom, you're obviously going to make a lot more when, it's coming back up on the next time around. I was actually talking to a friend today. His name is Derek Jar. I don't know if you know him, but he was just like, he's like, it's coming down. It's coming down. It's like, do we grab a bunch of these right now just to, hold them for 3 to 5 years? Because when it comes back up, obviously, and you multiply that by 100. Let's just say the average comes back up $50,000, $100,000.
I know.
You multiply that by 100. That's a large number.
That's a good size number. There's no doubt about it. I get it. It's an interesting spot right now, but we're all wading through it here.
Yeah. So if you have any questions, you can pop them below. We will continue to watch all for questions. We like answering all these questions. We like to help anybody that's just getting started out. So, what I can tell you that I've done, Luke's probably never done it. He's smarter than I, but
I don't know about that.
Don't send a big giant list to Chandler, or don't, that's your worst return on investment. Right. So, but, go after, you can do the older people list. Like I said, you can do the divorce list. You can do the back taxes. list. So that means back property taxes. That doesn't mean you go try to buy certificate of purchases at the tax lien sale. That doesn't, I mean, that you don't get to buy a house till like 3 or 5 years down the road. And guess what? They don't pay you very much on the interest rate. The state of Arizona is a hard money lender. They charge the people 16%, and then it's a bid down war, and most people settle for like 3 to 4% interest on those certificate of purchases for tax liens. So
right.
Yeah, it's not a way to go buy houses, but contacting the people that have back property tax liens is a way, one of the lists that you could go get involved in, because you're just showing that they obviously don't have enough money to pay their property taxes. They might not have enough money to pay their mortgage next,
Yeah. No, so. Absolutely. Heck yeah. Well, yeah, like we said, those are the lists that we're pounding.
And, if you are marketing, please use a CRM, and that CRM might be the yellow pad piece of paper, but, as long as you're using something.
Right, exactly.
So I just, it's kind of funny. I watch students get involved in real estate, and I'm like, well, how are you keeping track of your leads and your follow-up and all that kind of stuff? Because where do you make all your money, Luke?
Oh, it's all follow-up, 100%.
All follow-up.
100%.
People it's never the first call that gets you the deal.
No, ever. And if you do, it's going to be a fat one if you do, because usually those ones that are just such no-brainers where they, you talk to them on the very first call and they're like, yeah, come take my house. Let's do this. Those are typically going to be large, but those are so far and few between. Like it's ridiculous. Like like you said, it's all follow-up. It all comes down to follow-up. When you build that relationship with the actual seller and they think about you and they're the one that they want to work with, that's when you're going to get your deals. It's not going to be that one call close.
Yeah. So Miles just asked, when do you pull a new list and filter it out so it's not a lot of the same properties? So the first thing you do with the list is you delete the duplicates. That's rule number one, because you might have multiple lists that have the same property. So you just you can use a list stacking software if you want to stack the list. But yeah, the first thing you do is, and you can do this with Excel. You have the list and you go to address and you go delete duplicates, and that will make every address unique. So that's step number one.
For sure. We when we cold call wise, if we get through a list about 4 times, that's typically when we will go ahead and recycle.
Yeah.
Because we don't, you can call a list 6, 7 times through, but like by the time you get down to that 6th, 7th time, you start having, maybe you're down to 5 contacts in an hour or something. It's just kind of not really worth your time of cold calling if you're gonna be making, 5 contacts in an hour. Your first time, second time through that list, you should be getting 25 contacts an hour, maybe 20 contacts an hour. And again, if you're not seeing that, if you're having issues, then you need to obviously change your numbers because they could be coming up as spam. So there's multiple, facets to what goes into obviously pulling your list, what goes into your contact rate, stuff like that.
There you go. Little nugget of the day from Luke. Change your phone number so that you don't show up on the call spam.
If you're like, oh, I've got great lists, everything's perfect, but I'm calling for 3 hours and making 6 contacts and it's my first time through the list, there's a really good chance that your phone number is coming up spam.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure you're, changing those out regularly.
There you go. Buy a new number. Spend the $3. What does it cost? $3, $4?
I don't know. We have like 30 of them that we rotate through regularly.
Or just borrow a number from Luke.
Yeah, exactly. We've got some, right? Oh, that's awesome.
All right. Well, that's kind of our Tuesday Red Room. Thanks for jumping on. If you just jumped on late, we did some market stats. We did our list. We did stacking of the list. We did talk about some cold calling. Luke just told us to rotate your phone numbers. But yeah, if you have any more questions, we will watch. We'll watch for the questions as they. What dialer do you use? Do you still use Mojo?
I use Mojo. I mean, I know Batch is good too. I've heard good things about Batch dialer.
Yeah, so there
I'm a creature of habit. I've been doing it for 8 years, so I've stuck with Mojo.
But yeah, that is kind of the, if you haven't watched it, you can watch it on Just for Flips YouTube or the Viking Boys YouTube. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
All right, see it.